Namaskar. This is Prabir Datta from Kolkata, West Bengal, India. In this episode, I like to give some light on how to understand the Carnatic music. I have web published a few articles which are available in academia.edu and slideshare.net and maybe in Google search also. Earlier, the understanding of Indian classical music, mainly North Indian, then music therapy, then Rabindranath and Indian classical, then some PPT presentations, then Carnatic music, and 7,000 or more Carnatic ragas, etc. have been web published and are available free of cost in the web. Now, for just today, I am taking help of one of my published articles earlier, that is understanding the Carnatic music. Before I go into the details of it, I just want to dedicate it, particularly this episode of Carnatic on Carnatic music, to one of my sisters. I'll not name. She is, by birth, she is a South Indian, and by in heart, she is Bengali or Indian. Her husband is Bengali by birth, but maybe South Indian in the heart. Now both of them married and are staying very happily with their kids. Surprisingly, the first alphabet of both of their names start with P. Now, I'll not name them. They have to find out themselves, as well as their associates and acquaintances and the listeners. Now, for this edition or episode, I will narrate in English because I have very little knowledge in South Indian uh, languages, and I cannot speak. Maybe a few words I know. But of course, English will have a greater outreach, and the administrators of Justori also advised me that, okay, publishing in mother tongue or in other languages, English will have a greater reach. And from my side, I want to propagate. Of course, everybody is trying in his own way, but my mission is something different. I want to present it in a very simple, popular way, not as a maestro or a pandit or a very uh, highly acclaimed teacher of classical music, but in my way, as a common man, how do I understand? So I tried to make it simpler than other publications, because I found that the general public or the people or the listeners or the lovers of classical music see ghost in these musics. That North Indian classical, of course, the more number of people here, the publicity and all are there. But particularly for Carnatic or South Indian classical, people see ghost in it. But I want to say that it is not a ghost. It is for you. It has come from nature. It has come from the sounds of various animals, birds, etc. And those usable sounds and tones have been noted down by the learned and the wise men, and they have formed the melody, music, tone, tune, whatever you call it, raga, ragam. So I thought that let me have some narration on my article. I will attach this article in a PDF with this edition of Understanding Classical Music, Carnatic Music. I will read a part of uh, the thing which I think will be useful before you go to the main PDF attachment, which is a voluminous one of maybe about 50 pages, and different charts and other things are there. So I thought that let me give the main portion and I will also explain. It is not that I'm just narrating word by word from my write up. But for the details, you have to go to the PDF attachment. You have to open it, and it's good that we have a platform like Just Story to have all this. Now, the administrators of Just Story requested me for rendition of a few ragas or ragams and all these things. No, I'm sorry, I'm 71 years. That I'm not a regular practicing musician or, but I'm a music lover. So it is not possible. It will not be possible rather. I will name a few renowned musicians of Carnatic music, and those are available in the open market. Though I have some, but again, I have to convert everything to MP3 and then upload. So I refrained. I don't have that much of energy or time to do that. Now, the, this kind of uh, illustration does not need any introduction. This itself a self-explanatory and a compilation of various items, documents on Carnatic classical music. Tala. I would request everybody to listen to my earlier episode of Rabindranath and Indian classical, where I have narrated briefly in the section 2 of that publication. I have narrated about Indian classical, the frequency of ragas, and all this kind of thing. So that will be a leaving aside the Rabindra Sangeet portion. If you hear that before uh, listening to this Carnatic music episode, it will be helpful for you. Many of my friends and relatives ask me why I am compiling this kind of document with so much of strain and pain at this age. Now, while I wrote that article, then I was 63, but now today, after Drasturi came out, I am running 71 years. I'm also engaged in my engineering consultancy profession, and that is why this work was delayed. And of course, there is no Just Story platform. So again, this uploading of narratives bit delayed. I'm collecting the materials for more than 20 to 25 years, maybe 35 to last 35 to 40 years, or maybe more. I don't know. I don't remember. My personal feeling is that it may not be mandatory for anyone of any profession that he or she must be a renowned person or a performer of the classical music and belong to the same community. He or she may be a good avid listener, learner, reader, collector, and so on. He or she may understand the music in his or own way of learning, grasping, updating self, diligent reading and listening to great maestros. Well, I took up this work in the same light. After scrutinizing a number of core study materials, it has been revealed that the published books cover mainly the college and university syllabus, which contain a few common ragas or talas and raginis. And those are not always very illustrative and complete in nature. All are lying scattered through in a number of literatures or even in the form of manuscripts. I had to search extensively in libraries with acquaintances, various websites of Indian and foreign origins. I also traveled extensively across the length and breadth of Indian territory and met many not so famous musical personalities who actually are doing their part of the job just as a love, as an affection. I have no hesitation to express the amount of help and inputs I received from these gentlemen or ladies in the southern part of India, and without their help and cooperation, this compendium would have been incomplete. My sincere thanks to them. I have enlarged my collection with the assistance from European and American friends. Also, it is very difficult to get hold of very renowned people in the community due to their commitments and paucity of time. To get hold of them is a difficult task, and to get some of my queries answered, I could not. Everything I had to find out of my own interest. While carrying out the work, my personal experience is that though Indian performers are the best in the world for Indian classical music, the research work carried out and the data and information maintained for Indian classical music remains far better accessible and scientific in the foreign country than that of India. Now I will enter into the main part of the Carnatic music. Before that, uh, I must say a few words more. I tried to compile a kind of write-up which will be easily understandable about how, why, when, what of Indian classical music for the commoners, the theory and the science behind it. Deliberately, the chapterization has not been made so that the document remains a seamless reading material for one and all, which you will find in the PDF attachment with this episode. While making this compilation, I thought that when I'm compiling something, let me explore into some more areas, and I really drowned into the deep sea of unknown depth. Therefore, to cut short, I stopped somewhere in between where I don't know. I could be able to gather only 7,000 numbers Carnatic ragas. Due to uh, paucity of time, it will not be possible to give a narrative here. But that has been in my database. I have published that 7,000 or more Carnatic ragas, and you will get in those websites. I enjoyed full support from my family members all through in completing such compilation and such narration on Indian classical, adjusting with the high and lows of my temperament. If such documents and narrations reserve serves the purpose of easy understanding of the subject for commoners and increase the population of lovers of Indian classical music and audience, then I shall feel greatly accomplished. This document will be continually revised with the help of corrective suggestions. Now I will enter into the main portion of explaining how to understand Carnatic ragas and what is Carnatic raga. But it will be distributed in different sections because it is a time consuming article or narration, as you say. Now, Carnatic Sangeet, Carnatic music, Carnatic classical music, whatever you say, is a South Indian system of music. It has a very rich history and a very sophisticated theoretical system. The performers and composers have gained a world-class reputation by singing and playing instruments such as veena, gattuvaddam, violin, mridangam, ghatam, etc., and many other supporting equipments and instruments. Now, Carnatic Sangeet is found in the South Indian states of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka. These states are known for their strong presentation of Dravidian culture. The reasons for the differentiation between North and South Indian music is not very clear. The generally held belief is that North Indian music evolved along different lines due to an increased exposure to the Islamic world. This results from nearly 800 years of Islamic rule over northern part of India. Unfortunately, the evidence suggests that this answer is a gross oversimplification. For instance, Kerala has an extremely large Muslim population, but virtually no identification with North Indian music. By the same token, the Islamic influence over Odisha was negligible. Yet the artistic forms are clearly identifiable as Hindustani classical. Although there is a poor correlation between the geographical distribution of Hindus and Muslims and the two musical systems, there is an almost exact correlation between the Indo-European and Dravidian cultures and the two musical systems. Therefore, we come to a very delicate and politically uncomfortable yet inescapable opinion that the differences between North and South Indian music does not represent a differentiation caused by Islamic influence, but instead represents a continuation of fundamental cultural differences. Now, we can begin our discussion of the history of Carnatic Sangeet with Purandar Das, 1480 to 1564. He is considered to be the father of Carnatic Sangeet. He is given credit for the codification of the method of education, and is also credited with several thousand songs. Venkat Mukhi Swami, 17th century, is the grand theorist of Carnatic music. He was the one who developed the Melakarta system. This is the system for classifying South Indian ragas. Now, Carnatic music really acquired its present form in the 18th century. It was during this period that the trinity of Carnatic music, Sri Tyagaraja, Sri Samasastri, and Sri Muthuswami Dikshita composed their famous compositions. In addition to our trinity, numerous other musicians, vocalists, composers enriched this tradition. Some notable personalities were Papanasam Shivan, Gopala Krishna Bharati, Swati Tirunal, Mysore Vasudevachar, Narayan Tirtha, Utukadu Venkata Subba, Arunagiri Nathar, and Annamacharya. Carnatic music has a very highly developed theoretical system. It is based upon a complex system of ragam and tala. These describe the intricacies of the melodic and rhythmic forms respectively. The melodic foundation is the ragam. Ragam or rag is basically the scale. The seven notes of the scale are similar to Hindustani classical, sa re ga ma pa dha ni. However, unlike a simple scale, there are certain melodic restrictions and obligations. Each ragam has a particular way that it moves from note to note. The ragams are categorized into various modes. These are referred to as mela, and there are 72 in number. The mela are conceptually similar to the thuds of North Indian music. There is, however, a major difference. South Indian scales allow chromatic forms that are not allowed in Hindustani Sangeet. For instance, it is perfectly acceptable for the first three notes, sa, ri, ga, to all be roughly one semitone apart. It is these permissible forms which allow there to be so many mela. The tal or talam is the rhythmic foundation to the system. The South Indian tals are defined by a system of clapping and waving, while this is much less important in the North Indian system. The North Indian musicians define their tals by their theka. Now, nomenclature is one of the biggest difference between North and South Indian music. It is normal for a particular rag or tal to be called one thing in the North and something totally different in South. It is also common for the same name to be applied to very different ragas and tals. It is these differences in nomenclature that have made any theoretical reconciliation very difficult. Very difficult, I tell you. Somebody has to very detailed study in the subject matter. Okay, PDF attachment is there. Let me see how much people accept from there, come out. Now further, the equivalent and near equivalent ragas in Hindustani and Carnatic music. I must tell something how they resemble each other. The Hindustani equivalent of a mela is called a that or that. All Hindustani ragas are classified under 10 thats. Okay, with no that and with mix of thats. Somebody may call North Indian as 12 thats, but it is very strict theoretically. The Bhatkhand style, it is 10 thats. Names as told, first is North Indian third and the second is the South Indian Mela. Now Kalyan resembles to Mesha Kalyan. Bilaval resembles to Dhira Sankara Bharanam. Khambaj resembles to Hari Kamboji. Vairab resembles to Maya Malova Gaula. Vairabi resembles to Todi. Asavari resembles to Natavairabi. Todi resembles to Subha Pantu Varali. Purbi resembles to Pantu Varali. Marwa resembles to Gamanashrama and Kafi resembles to Kharaharapriya. Now, what follow in my write-up in the PDF attachment is a table of ragas which are the scales in Indian music or the set of motives in any given piece. First is the Hindustani North Indian raga, followed by its equivalent, near equivalent raga in the Carnatic music. For each raga, the third and the Mela Karta or Mela scales notations of the main or raga from which the derivative or Janna raga is formed are also given. Now, this Janna raga or derivative rag is resembling the raginis, they call derivatives, main ragas. Mela Karta or Mela ragas are pure ragas and Janna ragas are derivatives. If you compare with North Indian, it is third or the rag and the raginis are the Janna ragas. The raginis are the Janna ragas, derivative ragas. It's like that. So I stop it here and I'll go to the next section after this.